I should have stopped this fight with your father. I'm stopping this one now.
Don't, okay? Let me finish. I gotta prove it.
Prove what?
I'm not a mistake.
Why every great person has to break first. The worst thing that can happen to someone isn't losing money, a job, or even a relationship. The worst things happen quietly. It's when you come home at night, lie down on your bed, stare at the ceiling, and realize, I could have done more today. I could have been better. The hardest part is that this feeling rarely visits you just once. It becomes a habit. Day after day, you promise yourself that tomorrow will be different, and then tomorrow looks exactly like today, until one day you realize it wasn't just another day that passed, it was a piece of your life. People rarely hold on to themselves, they hold on to their story, to everything they've spent years building, to the person they once dreamed of becoming, to old dreams, old values, old promises, and moments they still can't let go of. We like to think that letting go of the past simply means forgetting what happened. But maybe that's not the hardest part. Maybe the hardest part is letting go of the person you were back then. Because your past becomes proof that your life meant something. You look back and think, back then I was different. Back then I had goals. Back then I still believed in something. Even if those years were painful, even if you weren't happy, you still find yourself returning to them. Not because you want to relive those days, but because a part of you is still trapped there. Maybe that's why people stay in places that stopped making them happy a long time ago. They aren't holding on to the relationship. They aren't holding on to the job. They're holding on to the meaning they once gave it, to the hope that one day, everything will go back to the way it used to be. But life rarely takes us backward. And maybe the hardest thing to accept is that some chapters were never meant to continue. Not because you failed, not because you weren't good enough, but because every story eventually reaches its end. Sometimes it's easier to accept pain than to accept the emptiness that comes after it. To realize that everything you fought so hard to keep no longer exists, that you've been trying to save something that quietly disappeared long before you noticed. There's a kind of loss that almost nobody talks about. It's not losing someone, it's not losing money, and it's not losing opportunities. It's the moment you stop being the person you used to be. The strange thing is, almost nobody notices. You still wake up every morning. You still go to work. You still smile. You still have conversations. To everyone else. You're exactly the same person, but inside, it feels like an entire lifetime has ended. Sometimes you accidentally remember who you were a few years ago, and you realize something strange. You don't miss that time. You don't miss those places. You don't even miss those people. You miss yourself, the way you looked at the world, the way you could find joy in the smallest things, the version of you that hadn't yet learned everything you know now. Maybe that's what growing up really is, not finding yourself, but saying goodbye to every version of yourself that can no longer exist. You say goodbye to the person who believed everything would work out, to the person who felt the need to prove something to everyone, to the person who believed happiness was waiting on the other side of one more achievement. And maybe the strangest part is that you can miss who you used to be, while knowing you can never become that person again. Because if you spend your whole life trying to bring back your old self, you'll never become the person you're capable of becoming. Maybe that's why real change hurts so much, because every change is a small funeral for the person you used to be. You leave behind old habits, old beliefs, old dreams, old fears, sometimes even old people. That's why the beginning of a new life rarely feels like a beginning. It feels like an ending, like standing in the space where the old you is already gone, and the new you hasn't arrived yet. And that's exactly why every great person has to break first, because it's impossible to become someone new, while you're still trying to protect the person you used to be. Every unforgettable story has a moment when the hero loses everything their identity was built on. They face their fears, their mistakes, their weaknesses, and suddenly, they realize the person they've always been can't take them any further. That's where the real story begins, not when they become stronger, but when the old version of them finally falls apart, when their old world collapses, when pretending is no longer an option, when they're forced to look at themselves honestly for the very first time. Maybe that's why stories about great characters stay with us for so long, because deep down, every one of us will eventually stand in that same place, the place where the old version of you no longer exists, and the new one hasn't been born yet, and it's in that space, between who you were and who you're about to become, that a person either breaks forever or becomes someone they never thought they could be.